Share your mindset. Today, we got another powerful mindset to share and talk to you with. Okay, today we got Sa. Sa is an amazing transformational coach. He got a different approach. His approach is totally different and outstanding that you can find anywhere. He's mixing three powerful tools. And today we're going to talk about that and how you can use those tools as well to you to empower yourself and to you to become the best version. So welcome, Sa. How are you today?
Hey, Emmir, I am very good, thank you. And I'm very looking forward to sharing a conversation with you and all of our friends that are joining us on the podcast.
Great. Please do let's start this with a bit of backstory of yourself, who you are, where you're from, everything, please.
I'd love to. Okay, so hello. So my name is Sal Jeffries, and pretty much what I do right now is I work with mindset, mood, and movement as a combination. So I blend psychology, I blend movement work, and I blend breath work to help people either live well, to feel well, and to really get the best, whether it's in performance of sport, whether it's in life, or whether it's in business. So it's quite a crossover. And I've been doing this for a long time now. So Emmir and I will, I'm sure we unpack that a little bit more, but that's kind of what I do right now today. So yeah, it is a blend of how the mind and the body work together, but importantly, the breath work as well.
My God, sounds really exciting for me. So before we're going to start unpacking all this, it would be awesome as well to let people know how everything started, how it came out this idea of you mixing these three because they are wonderful. But in my case, not many people will think I will mix psychology with breathing and movement. How did that came out this idea?
Sure. Okay. Well, in the more recent times, so I started teaching yoga over 10 years ago, and I've been doing some form of yoga for probably around 17 or 18 years in one type of philosophy or the yoga psychology and into the movement work. And then teaching for a long time. So all the body work stuff that comes from yoga. I'm also a keen movement specialist. I prefer the word movement. I don't use the word exercise in my language because exercise, certainly in our culture, is often got negative connotations and hard work. And I'm very interested in taking that out of the equation and making movement organic, natural, playful, that really the way we should be and the way we like to be, even if it's a small. So so I've been teaching yoga for a long time, and yoga is an amazing discipline. It will help you become supple, stable, strong. It will teach you breath work and mindfulness. But what I noticed was missing is that people would arrive in my class super stressed, wired, this, that, and the other. And we do an amazing class, strong classes as well. So I used to teach a very strong dynamic practice, and then all the way to calm down at the end. And they come back the next week still stressed. I'm like, have you not learned anything here? So I got curious around mindset, and also I've been working my own mindset for a long time. So then back in 2012, I embarked on psychology and psychotherapeutic training. So I did 4 years in postgraduate training, and it's pretty deep and intense, but it gave me this bedrock to work with the mind. So how do we think? What do we believe about the world? What have we learned from our past that makes us the current version of who we are? And then when I started to add these structures together, so I'd be teaching maybe a class of yoga, but I talk about beliefs or attitude or mindset. And I noticed that there's more depth to it. So I thought, this feels like a way forward. And it was more recently that I kind of added in breath work to coaching. So with the psychology thing, I work with people one-on-one to go through change, whether you're going through a life change, a job change, you've grown a business, you've had a huge challenge and you just need to shift. I help people become courageous and strong through their mindset. But I was thinking, well, we're missing the body here when we're in conversation. We're not involving the physiology 100%. So I started to get people to do a little bit of like body awareness work in my coaching, breath awareness work. And I guess, Emmir, it's been this kind of fusion that's been building of testing and trying and seeing how do these things support each other? In my view, there's a place for each. There's a place for good psychology. There's a place for good body work. And there's a place for breath work on their own. For me, I've tried them on their own and I needed everything to work together. So that's what I need. So that's what I share. So, so that's how we come to this more, I call it mindset, mood and movement. That's the three areas, but it's a more of a complete way of working through change. It isn't the only way. There are, for instance, I do heavyweight training and sprint training. I don't teach that, that's not my area that I teach. So I'll work with a performance coach to do that. So there are always other areas to build in, but I work on that bedrock of the mindset. If you can figure that out, get it pretty good, pretty strong and stable. If you get your body aware, physically supple and strong enough, and your breath, if that's working well, you'll change and you'll feel good. That's what I see.
Wow, that is amazing. And literally, it's like I'm looking forward to even unpack even more that. And one of the questions I want to ask you in regards to awareness. We've been talking behind the scenes, guys. Okay, we got a behind the scenes. Okay, when we've been talking about what would be the most powerful questions that we can ask today, so you can get value. And one of them it will be self-awareness. And what is so important for you, especially self-awareness.
Self-awareness, yeah. So firstly, let's describe what that is. So self-awareness is, in my view, awareness of firstly our body. You need to know what your body's doing and how it's feeling. So any good fitness discipline will train your body to have more proprioception. Like you know where your arm is, you know where your leg is, you know how you're sitting, particularly if you sit at a desk. So you'll have more physical awareness. Because the more physical awareness practice you do, more mindful practice, it will get even better. So first of all, it starts with a body awareness. If you don't know what your body's doing, you're going to be in problems. And then the next thing is breath awareness. So if you can become aware of your breathing, you can start to know what your nervous system's doing. We'll go into more in the breath shortly, but how we breathe affects how we're feeling, how our nervous system's responding, whether we're active or calm or stressed or relaxed. So noticing that. And the breath is a body thing. And then when it comes to self-awareness of the mind, you know what's a wonderfully curious thing about our minds? I've got secondhand information in here. So we've learned it from, parents, we've learned it from caregivers, we learned it from school, from our buddies, and sometimes we don't even challenge that and go, is this current? Is this useful? So self-awareness is almost to be able to step out of yourself and have a look and go, how am I doing? Am I being a good human being? Am I being a bit crazy about this? Am I, slacking with my diet? Am I being too hard on myself? And it's being almost like being another part of you. It's like being your own coach. But self-awareness, if you don't have him, you're going to struggle to improve.
And that's really important. And that's where I've been telling as well the guys from the group. It's like the first step to you to become powerful and trying to achieve things is like you need to create awareness first. And then after awareness, taking responsibility for it. And that's really important. What you're saying is totally agree with you. Especially the breathing. The breathing, I think, is going to be a sign as well of your body, as you said, in which state you are and what you need to do. But most of us, what we do is like when we have that breathing, or sometimes we feel that our breathing is not normal, we just carry on and do our things, and we don't take the awareness that you are talking about. So that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Jem. Literally, really good. Then we want to talk about the other M that you have. I like it to call your system the 3 M's because it is really nice. But what would be, what is the meaning of to be a leader? What it means to you to be a leader? Because many of us, we got different meanings of what it can be leadership and being a leader. But for you, especially what means?
Sure. So, I'm really interested in semantics, which is the meaning of things. I'm very curious about language, and this comes from my psychological training and really catching, what are we saying? What do we mean by that? So we need to be really clear on our meaning. So firstly, let's get clear. What do we mean by a leader? So my personal definition is a human being that takes their own initiative to do something. So that's the core of it. Now that might play out that you run your own business. You might be a freelancer. You might be a parent. You might be a role model to a younger kid. Anything where you take the initiative to do something and to demonstrate to other people in the world, that is a form of leadership. Now, of course, the misunderstanding is that you tell people what to do. That's not leadership. That's just telling people what to do. And really good leadership is, leading by example. So, for instance, if you are in the fitness industry and let's say your fitness is good, but your diet's not so good, is that leading? Maybe you want to lead with yourself on that. So, and it's not about being saintly. Look, we're none of us are perfect. That's just Instagram. That's just funny. That's great fun, but it's not like, we all have imperfections and that's fine. But if you want to lead, self-leadership is the start of all leadership. So how am I doing today? You can ask that question, how am I going to treat myself today? Am I going to care for my body by doing a bit of movement work? I'm going to care for my mind by calming it a little bit rather than being super busy. So for me, it's that again, self-awareness links to self-leadership. But some people really get this misunderstood. Them, I had a guy, and he's like, "Oh God, how am I a leader?" I'm like, "Well, you're a parent, right? You know, one of the best leadership jobs in the world is to become a parent. That's amazing, and a big job as well." And I had someone else that was a girl, and she was like, "Oh, you know, I'm not really a leader." I'm like, "That's just incorrect. If you say something which you passionately believe and you understand, your friends, your family, they were talking about climate change was the issue they were concerned about." And I was like, you know, if you've done your research and you care, you will lead. So it might be that you lead good choices in other people. So we have more leadership in us than we often think. It's just careful of how we describe it.
Oh, I love that. Literally, and it's going, is well aligned what you are doing at the moment, you know, between leadership as well, movement and breathing. Because, as you said, probably when someone is asking your help, you will say to him first, okay, how is your breathing? And then from breathing, how is your leadership? And then how is your movement? How's your activity? I love that. And I think it's really helpful what you're doing, and it's really unique too. And I think it's like people need to know you more. And that's where we're going to go later, how we can know you more about, because it's perfect what you're doing so far. Now let's go what is going to be through that journey of how you take as well the people who you are supporting with. It's like the breathing work. It's like what is so important doing the breathing work?
So recently, there's a lot of science that seems to be in a lot of social media domains. I see. Patrick McEwen's a big name. Ed Harold is a big name. Some people who are quite well known, and they do different things. What's got my interest? So since the pandemic, I've had some more time on my hands, and I decided last year that I would study much deeper into breath work. So in yoga, we teach various forms of breath work for various reasons. There are different applications. It could be one to calm your body, one to heat up your body, one to wake up. So there's various appropriate understandings. And what I've done is use the yoga bedrock, and then I've gone more into the science. So for one example, and everyone who's perhaps listening to this podcast, if there are two things you take from today, anything, forget about me, remember nose breathing, breathing through the nose. If you remember breathing through the nose as one key point, you will change your physiology, your blood oxygen transmission and levels, your whole state, and your nervous system control. There's so much science. I won't go into too much in one go, but if we nose breathe rather than mouth breathe, then you get a gas called nitric oxide produced in the sinus. That means there's more oxygen absorption. So for all of our friends who are into performance, you can get 10 to 20% better oxygen performance through nose breathing versus mouth. So when I run, for instance, I'm nose breathing. And even if I have to ramp up the pace through the nose, I will keep, because I want that nitric oxide. The second thing is belly breath. You've got to breathe in your lower belly, which means your diaphragm is moving. That's the breathing muscle, not up here. If we breathe in the upper chest, it's associated with stress, and it fires the stress response on. So these are two things we can change the nervous system. Now, you can't think. It's like you can't think to your belly, do some digestion, please. You can't think to your heart, I wish it, right, let's just slow down. You can't do that. But the breath is under what's called autonomic control. So the nervous system controls that. So you breathe when you sleep. But the breath is under conscious control. So you could hold your breath like freediver practice. You just stop breathing and you would hold the breath to do breath training. But you can breathe fast, slow, nose, mouth. So this gives us a tool to go in. I call it the remote control to the nervous system. And, you know, one of the big things around performance or stress, if you don't deal with the breath, you're not going to get there. It's that simple. You're missing so much. So it's a really key thing. And what I love, it's actually pretty simple. You know, this isn't complicated stuff to teach and practice. It's a set of skills, practice, and repeat. And I love that. And I see it make a massive difference. So we're going to see more and more breathing technology added to sport, to performance, to well-being, to stress management, because the data and the science is now in, and it's saying this stuff is this, we've got to be doing it. And around it's curious to me, about 80% of people are apparently what's called dysfunctional breathers, who are breathing too lightly, too much, mouth breathing, upper chest breathing, and none of it is serving us as either as people, or if you're doing sport work, it's going to compromise your sport. So it's such a big one, and I'm really passionate about it because I see it make a lot of change.
That is amazing. Literally, I just being like to say, wow, that is amazing. What would, if you can give us a gift, how we supposed to breathe today when on a normal daily basis when we are doing daily things on during our day? How is supposed to be the breathing?
Through your nose all the time, every time. It's really simple. Now, when we speak, one of the other reasons for this is, so we've got a bit of science. We have oxygen. Well, we all know this. We breathe in oxygen, and that's what our cells, it's called cellular respiration. So the cells use the oxygen to make energy, and we can move our arms and our blood, and everything works. And then the byproduct is carbon dioxide, CO2. What's misunderstood is that we need the right amount of pressures between the O2 and the CO2. So if we mouth breathe, we outflow too much CO2. So you'll see this if someone hyperventilates, or let's say you've done a sprint training of some kind, gasping. They're not going to catch the breath because they've emptied too much CO2. And unless there's enough carbon dioxide pressure in the blood, the oxygen doesn't release from the red blood cells into our normal cells. So basically, you have to get the carbon dioxide levels up. And most of us don't do it because we're over breathing. So the trick is get used to nose breathing all the time. Now, when we're speaking, we are, sorry, my dog. Good boy. What's the matter? Good boy. That's the joy of working from home. Dogs around and stuff. He's wanting some attention. Excuse me. So when we are like now, relax and breathing. If your mouth's open, again, we're not getting all those benefits and got the negatives. Simply close the mouth gently and breathe through the nose. But when we're speaking, naturally, you're using mouth to breathe because it's part of speaking. So after this, before this, I did a little nose breathing practice just to settle myself. And after this, I will do another one. Only a few minutes to only nose breathe just to get everything settled. But my suggestion is nose breathe all day, every day, unless you cannot for some medical reason. Just a caveat, if you're pregnant, be very careful. Breath practice. You must never hold your breath if you've got cardiovascular issues, heart issues, hypertension, that sort of thing, or pregnant. Do not hold breath. Do not do breath holds at all. If you're doing any breath training, do a quick Google search and you'll see what's safe and what's not. But nose breathing, if you're breathing normally, in and out through the nose, into the lower belly and out, you will train your body to breathe that way and you'll get all the benefits from all that we know that helps the mind and the body.
That's so beautiful. Now going through this stage of stress. Stress is something that has been with us for a really long time, but now it's taking more popularity because now more people are having it, but also with social media is more like well-known stress. So everyone is just tend to say, oh, I'm stressed. But before it was not like that maybe, but we got two types of stress, and that's what you explained to me behind the scenes. It would be really lovely if you can share as well with my audience what it would be the difference between environmental stress, but also the mindset thinking stress.
Absolutely, yeah, sure. So again, we want to take a moment and think, well, what do we mean by stress? So each of us will be experience stress in different way. You know, a parent who's homeschooling with difficult children, that's a type of stress. The person who's not sure they're going to have a job next month, that's a different type of stress. So it's all personal to us, but there are two general areas. So what I call environmental stress. So that's the world around us. It could be your employer. It could be your family. It could be your neighborhood. It could be something happens that's in the outside world. You know, coronavirus is the biggest obvious one. That's not happening. That's happening around us in the outside world. But then there's internal environment, which is our thoughts. So coronavirus, you know, if you start thinking that it's the worst thing in the world, you're terrified and it's going to, you know, and I had it, I've experienced coronavirus. I had it in January and it's very, very bad, but I'm fine now. So it's a really serious virus. But if we start having lots of fear about it or fear about our job, you know, let's dip into that. So if you don't know if you're going to have a job next month or not, you don't know. But if you're worrying you don't have a job next month, that's the internal environment. Either way, whether it's a thought or a reality, your body will experience stress, whether you imagine it or whether it's happening the same way. The physiology does not lie. So if you're thinking, oh my goodness, that's bad thing's going to happen, cortisol goes up, adrenaline goes up, heart rate increases, breath rate increases, normally gets in the upper chest. The way our mind works, it starts to look for threats. and it becomes very threat aware. It's a bit like the car alarm going off. It's an alert. It's the fact is a lot of our stresses are actually internally created. It's how we think or what we believe about things, when actually the reality may not be happening. So one of the things I find curious is to ask ourselves right now, this moment right now, are you okay? I'm going to ask myself that question. Am I okay? Yeah, I'm good. Now, there's a whole load of pressures I have. I've got work pressures and, running a business and all the things that you have to do. But actually in the present, you can check it. Now, if in the present there's someone running after you with something scary, that's when you want stress response to work. You want to run, and if there's nothing wrong with stress. It's the most beautiful system. It's just misunderstood. In fact, I would invite you and all our friends on listening to maybe reframe the word stress to different language. So one of it is the threat response. So you could say, is there a threat? Now, for instance, if you're going to lose your job, well, that's a potential threat. You may not be able to pay for your home and so on. But what can you do about it? How real is this? Is it happening now? Can I make choices about that? Oh, suddenly I'm empowered. But difference around this is getting super, again, it goes back to our beginning thing, self-awareness. What's actually going on here? What's really going on? And then is this my mind doing the stressing? Is it the environment? And then what if I change my breathing? How do I think and how do I feel about this concern or this worry? Okay. And then when you start controlling your breath, you start opening up your mind. So you work from a part of the brain that is much more creative and empowering than the part of the brain which is all about safety and survival. So that's why I see the linkage. We need to understand how they work together, because breath only without mindset work, or enough of it, is hard to understand. We can't figure it out. Mindset work without breath work, you're not controlling your body. And if your body is tight and, the classic, what does this tell the brain? Okay, we need to soften that, or we need to strengthen our body so we feel physically strong. So yes, it's a very big answer to stress, but it's a big subject. And of course, there's a lot of personal experience or personal narrative about what's stressful for me, each individual. But for sure, keep it simple. Ask yourself, is it environmental? Is it happening around me? And can I do anything about that? And you might be able to make choices that you didn't realize if you stop and slow down for a minute. If it's internal, is it how I'm thinking about the world or the future? Well, then my thoughts, can I change those? Can I open that up? And both of those viewpoints will give you a different frame in your mind. Link it to your breath. You will manage and down-regulate stress.
I love that. Literally, it's so clear what you are saying, because literally is a lot of information nowadays. I think the last 10 years is more information than ever, with Google and stuff. So sometimes when we type how to be less stressed or what is stress, you will have loads, and sometimes we are going to have this misunderstood of information. But with you right now, I think it's the most clearest information that I ever had, and it's really good. So thank you for that too. Just almost finishing with the talk of today, because today we wanted to keep it on a general one, because as you know, Sal is an expert in those 3 areas, and talking about each area, it can take a bit more personalized, and we can talk for each subject. So if you are liking this video, please put in the comments, let me know if you wanted to know more about what is Sal doing in each one of them, and then we can try to see if we can have him more often here, and trying to see if he can still share knowledge with us. But now, Sal, which type of morning do you have, like a morning routine? How is your day? Usually, what is the day of this amazing coach?
Yeah, what's the day? It's a good one. Well, as I got a little bit older, I found I wake up earlier. Now, we have these natural circadian rhythms of the body. Some of us wake up at certain times, but it's my natural time. I don't force it. Is around sunrise. So in the winter, I'm up later. In the summer, I'm up early. I try to work with the light, but generally I'm awake around 5, thereabouts. This morning it was 6. I had a beautiful 8 hours sleep. Lights out at 10. It was amazing. It was just pure, solid, deep sleep. But I'm up pretty sharpish. My morning routine looks like this. Slow get up. I don't want to jack my nervous system into looking at my phone and thinking of things. I want to calm it. It's already given me enough challenges in the day. There's always lots of things I have to do. So I try to keep things calm. I get the sunlight open because I want that light coming in my eyes to tell my brain it's daylight. It's time to switch on all the hormones and that. A lot of us with our pandemic situation haven't gone out as much. So in the morning, you've got to get sunlight in your eyes, and it's best to get outdoors. So I get my blinds open and I stretch. I do not leave my bedroom until I've done a stretch. I've got a nice space I stretch out, and I will do a nice simple stretch routine. Now, of course, I understand what I need to do. If you don't know, just follow a video. There's a load of them that you can do. I do stretch and mobility, so the whole system is starting to wake up, and it's not forced. Alternate mornings. This morning was a weights morning, so I'm sandbag training. I use heavy sandbags, so they're high weight, low skill, so you're very safe to work with those. That's my morning this morning. Yesterday was a run. You know, it's not far. I'm not an athlete, but it's about movement. It's about feeling kind of fun and young and free. And so it's wake up, stay calm, mobility and stretch, get outdoors and get moving. And then I'll eat a great breakfast. I love my food. This morning it was vegan pancakes with loads of fruit and nuts. Beautiful, really, really nice. So yeah, that's my morning routine. The other thing I like to do is before I start my work, so if I'm creating a training program, maybe I'm organizing work for a coaching client, maybe I'm crafting the week stuff for the movement training, I will look at the big picture and try and go, well, what's going on this week, this month? What am I doing in life? And then I'll bring about what am I doing today? And I've done this before, I lose sight of my big picture, like what on earth am I doing this for? Then I just get busy, and that creates stress. And even though I know how to mitigate stress, that would be smart if I open my mind and go, well, what's the big picture? And the question I ask myself, well, what really matters? And I aim to do what really matters that day. Now, of course, I have to attend to admin. Of course, there are things I need to do, walking the dogs, all the things. And by the way, that's a pleasure for me. I walk my dogs 4 times a day most of the time. And so I'm out a lot. I keep moving in between all my other stuff. But that's my routine. And I find switch on the body with a bit of compassion and grace, not force, compassion and grace. Then go do something a bit more energizing, which is power and vibey and fun. And then have nutrition that's really sustaining, and then think big picture. It sets me up really well. So that's my general pattern that meets the morning.
I love that. I love that. And something that I've been asking to every single of my guests in Share Your Mindset is like, how do you get into your scale? Because you got busy scale most of the time, probably. How do you find time to do your exercises? Well, training, because I agree with you. I don't like to call exercise. How do you end up doing stretching as well? Walking the dog 4 times a day. How do you end up doing this and being able to be on track with your projects and businesses?
It's a really good question. And sometimes it's not as beautiful as that. Sometimes my time's compressed and it's like, there's a lot to do today. I have, the command, this thing, this commitment. And then you look at it and it's like, yeah, you've got to really focus. So my life isn't always as a dream-like as it might sound. So there's a lot of pressure as well. What I would say, it's about how I approach the day. So for instance, this week on Sunday night, I took a moment. In fact, I was talking to my girlfriend and we were saying about, what are you up to this week? And how are you going to approach this week? And it's, again, this is self-awareness. And thankfully we had this lovely conversation. And I said, you know what, this week, I'm going to approach it with serenity, to be serene. And I've got a lot on. I've chosen to do a lot of things. I've got some business building stuff going on, some really cool things that's happening with my work. But it means I've got a lot of attention to pay and a lot of time to put in. But if I focus on a way of being, it's like you just set yourself up at the beginning. And like your business is called Mind Setup, isn't it? It's just set your mind up. If you've chosen to be super stressed, you're going to be stressed. If you're choosing to be like, oh, I've got lots to do, you're going to have lots to do. So I chose this word serenity, which meant even though I've got loads and loads on, in between the things, I'm breathing calm. I took a lovely walk in the sunshine between the 2 places I was at today. And I really paid attention to what's going on to stay present. And that is, I think, one of our issues, Emmir, that we're always in here, or we're always in the future. Let's say you finish this podcast, you got cook some food. You got to see a CV program, but it goes on and on and on. So you got to set things up from the off, slow stuff down. SSD is my little abbreviation. Slows. There is another rude expression of that, but I won't use it on the podcast. Slow stuff down, and then take a moment to see big picture, and then jump in and jump in, go for it, And by the way, you got to get your commitments right. So I did this last week. I didn't put my training sessions in. I chose to work really early and I had some stuff. I didn't get training done. And I was like, it's late in the day and I was tired, and I did a small workout and it just wasn't good for me. So I prioritize that first. It's really simple. Prioritize that. It'll happen. So that's my suggestion.
Wow. Ending up with, I just wanted to ask one more extra question. And it would be mainly just a bit of your point of view for people who may be afraid of showing their talents and skills. So that would be, what would be the best advice that you can, advice or point of view for people who are afraid of not showing their skills and talents?
Maybe I'm just curious that question. When you say afraid to show it, can you elaborate? Give me an example. I need to understand it a bit better.
So for example, I'm really good at drawing. But I'm scared to show that, or to say, hey, look at it, that is my drawing. Have that confidence, but also, yes, because you work as well in confidence with you and your coaching. So how you can have this approach to tell people, hey, you can do it, show your skills, feel free to show your talents and skills so other people can get benefit, Got
it. Really good. Okay, so the biggest thing is, a question we want to ask is why am I afraid to show my skills? So if it's me or you, we're going to say, why am I afraid to do this? Why am I afraid to show this? And then it's probably about judgment. For most of us, it's fear of judgment from another person. And actually, when you detach from that and say, you know what, I'm going to show people my painting, or I'm going to sing a song, or I'm going to do this, whatever it is, detach from the need for approval from others. You don't need approval from others. I don't. You don't. Now, it's really nice when people say, hey, that's great what you did. You need approval from yourself. So if you say, you know what, everything I'm going to do today, I'm all right sharing it because it's important to me. And it doesn't matter what someone else says, because everyone's got an opinion. Make it important to you, detach from the concern of others, and then there's no fear, because that's the big one.
I love that. That is a really good, unique answer for that. How can we get to know more about you, what you do, how, if someone is interested in working with you, how they can reach you out, how can they know more about yourself?
Absolutely. So there are 3 ways to work me. One, super accessible. You can come do some movement work in my yoga teaching practice. It's really, it's low cost. It's easy to come to. It's all hosted online. So we'll set up some links after this and add some links to that. And I invite anyone who hasn't done any kind of physical practice, come do a class for free. There's a link on my site. So that's level 1. Level 2 is if you want to do some training work where you learn a bit better. I run workshops and masterclasses at different times. So send me a link and I'll put you on a mailing list or on a contact list for when that stuff comes up, and keep you posted. And if it's one-on-one coaching, if there's like, yeah, I kind of want to get into something for myself, which of course a lot of us do, then I have a call with people. I say, book a call. It's no charge. We'll just figure out what's going on for you. Can I help you? Maybe I'm not the best person. Maybe I need to refer you to one of my, people, to someone else. But if I can help you, here's a suggestion. Here's what we could do. So we'll put some links perhaps after the podcast that people can access. But yeah, reach out. I'm really accessible online. I'm always good for a question. Questions are what I work with in the mind. So if you've got questions like, oh, how does that work? Or how could I do that? Hit me up. I'll always answer questions and help where I can.
That's amazing. And thank you as well for the gift of offering this free class of doing some stretching, some yoga, mobility, which I totally agree with, is one of the best ideal routine for you to have. It would be a stretching, bit of cardio, bit of weight training. So totally agree with you. So thank you so much for offering so much value, so much information, so much wisdom. Really grateful to you for having this time with me and with all the beautiful people from the mindset community, which is growing and growing. Thank you for that. hopefully we can have you here and talk about each of your subjects, expertise and fields a bit more longer for in the future. But thank you so much. This is Share Your Mindset. We got started today with us sharing wisdom. See you next Friday with another powerful mindset. Bye.